Yeah, so for all of those late stragglers who might have joined in, I want to kind of just give a little refresher on the alumni we have here today. So Aiden was on our short-term program in Rome earlier this summer. And Aiden, what I would like you to tell the everyone here in the audience is, where were you in the timeline of your college career? When did you take your gap program?
Right. So I was a junior in college. I'm a senior now. And, I kind of just didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I felt like I was kind of just trapped in this little bubble. I've lived in this small town all my life and, I go to the school now, but, it still just feels like I haven't really gotten out there. I haven't seen what the world has to offer. And that's when I realized, all right, I need to just go somewhere. I don't know where. And so I did a little digging and I came across EF and I really liked the program that I came across because it was over the summer. So it wasn't interrupting my schooling and I got to go to Rome and it was incredible.
Great. Thank you, Aiden. Missy, I'll have you kind of give a little synopsis on where you were at when you decided to take your gap.
I'm muted. I was in between my sophomore and junior year of college. I was at another school and I decided I wanted to transfer and I didn't know where I was going from there. So I found EF and I took an entire year off and spent the first semester kind of like getting myself financially and ready, all kinds of ready for the trip in the spring. And then I went on the gap semester last spring and I did Costa Rica and an internship in Malaga.
Great. Thank you, Missy. I think we'll turn it over to Frankie now to kind of give a little summary of where she was at when she made her decision to take a gap.
So I had actually just graduated college. I knew I was going to go to graduate school, but I did really want to find an opportunity to travel. I really started looking for an internship abroad, and that's how I came across EF. And I ended up doing service learning in Costa Rica and language study in Rome. And it was just a nice little break between two different college experiences.
Great. Thank you, Frankie. And Marissa, last but not least, I'd like to have you introduce yourself for all those who didn't get to hear and kind of give a little summary of where you were at in your career making this journey.
Right. Thank you. I'm Marissa. Yeah, I did the Costa Rica service and sustainability between my sophomore and junior year, so over the summer. And same reason as Aiden, it was just kind of convenient. I'd also felt like I was in a bubble. I go to Middlebury College, which is a really small town in Vermont. And I was just like, oh, like I need to get out of here. And I saw it was advertised on my Instagram and I was like, oh, that looks really interesting. So I just sent an email and they immediately just texted me back. It was like very quick, very easy to communicate and apply. And it was a really good time.
Thanks, Marissa. Okay, so now we'll let the stars of the show shine and we'll kind of get into the Q&A. And so the first kind of question I want to ask you guys is, what were you looking to get out of when you decided to make this gap? Like, what was going in through your head and what made you think EF was the right choice in that?
So for me, being that I was coming out of college, I had already figured in my head that I'm a little too old for this. This seems like more of a high school, beginning of college kind of journey. And I was still looking for something to take me out of my comfort zone. And I think that this is exactly what the gap semester did for me. I didn't expect to find something as I don't know, as much as I loved EF, I didn't expect to love the entire semester as much as I did. I was looking for something completely uncomfortable, but it ended up not being that way. But I was in a completely different environment. It just felt like home with all the people I was with anyway.
Frankie, I completely agree. Despite me working here, I still have so much, the expectations were, whatever I could have expected, they were just blown past on my semester as well. So that's great to hear. And anyone else, feel free to kind of outline what your goals were and how EF helped to accomplish those during your college journey.
Similar to Frankie, mine was just kind of experience something new, get out of my comfort zone. When I left my previous school, I wasn't in the best place and I didn't really know where I wanted to go to school after that. So I kind of just needed like I'll call it like a reset. And I just wanted to meet new people, go new places. And I definitely did that. The one thing I didn't expect, honestly, was making like lifelong friends. I thought I would have just like people to do things with when I was on my semester. But I made some amazing lifelong friends like Frankie. And it was really like it pushed me out of my comfort zone and it gave me that like reset I was looking for.
John, can we maybe just dig into that really quick? And I don't want to take us too off track, but Missy and Frankie, since you guys both sort of brought it up, what was it like being older, right? Or the perceived I'm older. Am I going to fit in? Am I going to make friends? Like, how's all that going to go? Can you guys maybe, and anyone can chime in on this one, but can you maybe just expand on how that felt for you?
Yeah. And I mean, Kyle really got the brunt of my feelings when I first was looking into EF because it was so convincing to like really want to take on this really cool program. But at the same time, when you look into it, you see ages like, 17, 18, or I think 18's like the mid-range of like who's there. But I never expected to be with anybody closer to my age, let alone my age. Like Missy is now, and we're not just saying this, literally one of my best friends, but Sarah, another girl on our trip, ended up being my age in the same program that I was in undergrad. And it was just, never went into it expecting to make a friend, let alone a bunch, and even see some that were my age. I really just took the leap thinking like, all right, well, if this doesn't go well and I don't know anybody my age, like, oh, well, but even with that, like, I was worried, but it didn't take away from me making the decision to go. I still think it was a life-changing decision. And I kind of put that thought aside that the age of the people around me would matter. And realistically, even though there were people my age or closer to my age, it made no difference whatsoever. It was still the most amazing experience.
They call her growth mindset, Frankie. Love that. Anybody else want to add on to that? That's awesome.
To go off what Frankie said, we were a little bit older, but there was 4 of us in our group that were in college or kind of like in that, mindset, but everyone else had just graduated high school. And I remember the first couple days in Boston, I'm not gonna lie, we were really nervous about it, the 4 of us. And we were kind of like, they've never been to college, like it's gonna be so different, like we're all gonna just like do our own things. But it wasn't like that, like at all. And it was definitely really nice to have found people my own age, but the age gap didn't do anything. Like some of our really close friends were like 3-4 years like younger than us, and it honestly didn't make a difference at all.
Hey, Marissa, would you guys care to expand on that a little bit more?
Oh, I was just gonna agree that like when we arrived at the airport, it was really funny. We were all like sitting on like our suitcases on like one side waiting for everybody to arrive, and everyone was like showing up and like introducing themselves and how old they were, and like everyone was 18, and at that point I was 20, and I was like, oh my goodness, like am I going to be able to bond with these people? Like they haven't been to college yet, they just graduated. Are we going to be able to like connect, and work well together? But there were actually people who were my age, and there was even people who are older. And like that made me feel at ease at the beginning, but then like similar, like along the journey, I realized that like it really didn't matter at like that point. We were all just kind of doing the work together. We were all being forced into a new environment we hadn't been in. So like none of us had like this experience before. So like age didn't matter at all. Like none of us had been to Costa Rica and been working with sea turtles. So like we were all pretty much just on the same page. And it was nice because I was able to like, I think, talk to these younger people about like, oh, like they have like worries about going to college. I can like help them now and like give them advice on like what it'll be like, especially with like COVID and everything, and what like the new dynamic looked like with Zoom in university. So
And Aiden, I'd love to hear kind of your experience with that as well. Even though we were on the same program, I'd like to hear kind of like you as an older figure. How did you feel along that trip?
Yeah, so it was interesting. So I was 21 when I was doing mine, and I was one of the two 21-year-olds, and we were both the oldest, which was a little deterring. And then adding to that, I was only one of three guys out of 12 or 13 girls. So it's a little intimidating at first, but that doesn't matter once you meet people and you talk to them and you get to know them. And now I have people that I talk to every single day that I met on this trip. And it was honestly, life changing. And I'm incredibly grateful that I got the opportunity. And it's just something that, going into it, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be alone and I'm going to do my own thing. But once I got there, I realized that these people care about you and they want to talk to you. They want friends, and they're in a really similar situation that you're in. And so it was really cool.
Thanks, Aiden. And something I also want to hear from you guys as well is, what was it like, then transitioning back into college, having done such a, pretty impactful experience like this? What was the transition back into college? And for you, Frankie, what was it like kind of, entering more so of the real world, excuse me?
It's the perception is that you're not going to want to go back to this like mundane life at college, but I think if anything, this prepared me more than anything else could have. Whether it was, now that I'm going to school to be a social worker, I could have worked in a therapist's office, I could have worked in a hospital, but absolutely no experience could have prepared me for like the big girl world other than actually seeing the world and meeting people from all over the place. I don't think that like misperception of taking time off of school means you're never going to go back. I think it almost gives you enough space from what's making you unhappy or what you're unsure of to come back with a much clearer mind and really understand what it is that you want moving forward. I wanted to go to grad school, and some of like our peers on the trip were like, I want to make a living out of traveling, and they did. They went and did that. So I think it's much more of like almost like a therapeutic way of figuring out what you want to do, but also in a fun way.
I totally agree, Frankie. I think I don't know if you guys would agree with this, but something I always felt after my gap semester was I wish I had done it earlier. That was something that, doing this before college, how much more that could, like, experience like this can prepare you for something like that. And for the rest of the group, I want to hear, what was your transition back into kind of your regular way of life?
I'm gonna have to like agree with Frankie a little bit. I thought that it was going to be awful. I was not excited to transition back to school, especially because I was going to a new school. And I was getting so nervous. I was like, I haven't been in a classroom in like a year. I haven't taken notes. Like I haven't done this or that in a year. And it is kind of crazy how the experience of like seeing the world and like meeting all these people impacts you, because I felt like the transition was kind of like seamless. I found it a lot easier to like make friends and approach new situations because like I was like, I'm moving 30 minutes away from home, whereas I just went on a trip for 3 months with people I didn't know, like across the world. Like I can move 30 minutes away and go to college. Like I can do this, it's fine. So I think it definitely prepared me a lot for that. And the transition was not as bad as I thought it was gonna be.
I definitely agree with that kind of perspective change. It makes swallowing and each new situation that much easier, I think.
Missy told us every day that she was never going back to college, ever. She's like, I'm done with that. I'm never going back. And I've never seen someone grow as much as Missy did. She was not ready to mingle. She was not ready to go back to school. And now she's literally getting amazing grades, and she made a whole new group of friends. Like, and I'm not just saying that because she's sitting here. It's actually amazing. If you knew Missy, it really changed everything for her.
That was not on the script, everyone. I just want to put that out there.
She's actually being paid to say that.
And Aiden, what was it like for you transitioning back now into your senior year?
Yeah, I think honestly, it pushed me to want to do better in my senior year so that I could finish well, get a degree, go find a job somewhere that's not here, and continue to, travel and explore. Because, once you see one part of the world, you want to see all of it. And so for me, it was very much a motivating experience.
And for you, Marissa?
I'd have to agree with that. After I came back, I returned in the fall and I did that semester here, but then I took the next semester off. I was originally supposed to study abroad in Florence through my school, but instead what I did is another friend of mine who's taking the semester off from high school. We ended up just traveling together. So we went to the Galapagos, and then Guayaquil, Ecuador, and then we went around Europe, and then we went to Egypt, and it was one of the best experiences of my life. So we did that for the whole semester. And I think similarly, like with what Aiden said about being inspired now to go out, like if it hadn't been for my semester in Costa Rica, I wouldn't have had the confidence to be able to travel by myself for such a long period of time. But like it just kind of transforms the way you see yourself in the world and like your ability to go out and do things. And I think also it has motivated me to be like a global citizen. And I was always interested in joining things like Peace Corps or volunteering abroad, but now like as I'm like ending the end of my college career, I'm definitely looking towards like those sorts of like programs, like whether it be Peace Corps or something maybe more like EF, where I'm volunteering in some place where I've never been before, surrounded by a whole new group of people.
That's super cool, Marissa. That trip sounds incredible. Something that
It makes
I
us
think,
jealous, doesn't it? John,
yeah,
can
it
we,
does.
one thing, not to take over really quick, something that stands out that everybody said that maybe you experienced too, John, and I think I felt, is that it's actually like this sense of gratitude of like, oh my God, I can do this. I got to do this. The world is a big place. It's an amazing place. Man, if I had just stayed at home, I would have just stayed in my narrow little box like this. And now I go out there and I'm Marissa and I'm going to Egypt and traveling to Ecuador, and I'm Missy and I'm crushing it in school, and I'm Aiden and I'm like, where am I going to next? I'm Frankie, I'm in grad school. John, for you, you went to Italy because you wanted to be able to connect more with your grandparents and be able to speak Italian with them. And then you went and lived with them in Naples, right? If you had never done that, maybe you never would have gotten the chance to actually live with them. And that's going to be a life. Well, I don't want to speak for you, but I would like, assume a lifelong memory. Yeah.
No, I think you can speak for me in that situation. It was something that I realized, like you said, I almost recognized like the privilege that is to travel, the privilege that is these incredible experiences to, I mean, a lot of people around the world don't even leave their home state. So to say I visited, whatever it was, 10 countries in a couple of weeks, that was like an experience that I think is going to stick with you for so long. And it's not just that travel aspect. It's also, like you said, what you gain on your GAP program that helps fuel you for your future endeavors. And that's something I kind of wanted to hear from you guys in terms of when deciding on what program, like, you knew you wanted to do this. What was that research and kind of navigating process like? How did you stumble across EF? What was the kind of pre-departure preparation that you guys used?
I was definitely looking for my one semester off to travel, but I felt like I wasn't being productive enough to just go off and figure it out on my own. So I started researching like some sort of internship or even a volunteer opportunity abroad, which in my case really wouldn't have been helpful because in a social work setting, if you're not speaking their language, it's not really beneficial. So I really, when I put together the search for internship and study abroad, that I came across EF and didn't know much about it. And then I remembered that my high school does their European trip every year through EF. So after digging some more, I got on a call with Kyle and my mom, and that was really it. It was just kind of set in stone from there that this was my opportunity to take.
Frankie, could you maybe, because I think really interesting point, you were thinking internship, you ended up doing language and service. How do you feel like all of that came together, and did it still stay connected to your goals?
Yeah, so my goal, and not even goal, I was really looking forward to traveling to Italy, which I spoke to Kyle about just in the entire, no matter how long the program was, I needed to see Italy. It was just something I really wanted to do. And I think that looking for an internship and then going through the options for what I was looking for, I was better off just going out and exploring the history of where I was than putting myself into an internship that wasn't necessarily suited for what I was looking for. When you're in college and you're not sure what direction you're going in, a really good internship can help you find your way. But I knew exactly what I wanted to do. So it was much nicer to take up a language in the country that I wanted to be in. I was in Rome, was a lot more beneficial for me rather than an internship.
And I'll throw this question to the rest of the group too, in terms of, in college, a lot of, when you think of traveling abroad, you think of study abroad kind of programs of college. How did that tie into your research process as well?
So I was actually going to study abroad. My plan was to study abroad in Australia in the spring of my junior year. And then when I was like toying with going back to school, my parents told me that if I went back to the current school I was at, I couldn't study abroad. And I was like, well, if I can't study abroad, like, what's the point? And so they were like, we're not paying for you to go to the school to just study abroad. So like, come home and figure it out. So I found the EF program, which was, it was actually an internship in Australia and service in Thailand. That was the original trip I was supposed to go on. And so I found that, and that like aligned perfectly with my goals. I was like, okay, well, I'm not in school. Like I can just do this trip instead. Like it's perfect. And then obviously everything got changed because of COVID. But that's kind of how I found EF, just because I was like, well, if I'm not going abroad, I have to find something. So I just started Googling like Australia trips, and that came up. But I ended up doing service in Costa Rica and internship in Malaga instead, which was still amazing.
Marissa and Ada, I'd love to hear from you guys as well in terms of what that looked like.
For me, my school didn't offer study abroad programs for my major. And, that was kind of upsetting for me because I wanted to travel and learn. And so, I started looking around and looking at, the different places that could offer me things. I stumbled across EF. And the reason I went with EF was because of all the different options that I had. And so for me, the crucial thing was that I didn't want to take a whole semester off because I didn't want to interrupt, how school was going. I didn't want to delay graduating by anything. And I came across a summer program. And because of that, I got to do a program that didn't take away from my schooling, but still gave me the opportunity to learn about new culture, history, language, and
Yeah, definitely.
So, like I already said, I saw it on Instagram and like just the ad section. But actually, same as Frankie, my school had a program to Europe through EF that I actually had gone on. And so when I saw it, I just kind of recognized it, and I was like, oh, like I've done this before. And I thought I should just take my chances and apply for it. I think my biggest concern at the time was whether I would be able to have the money to do it. And I had communicated that with the person who had been put in contact with me. And she said that there were a few, I think 3 scholarship opportunities. The one I remember is the one I got, which was the Global Citizen one. And so I just like, when I had asked her about it, I think it had already passed the due date. It was an essay and I submitted it late. She said that they would extend it for me, and I got it. And it was like a good amount of money, and it made me able to go on the trip. And so I think the program, it just kind of spoke out to me because it was just so accessible. Like it was on Instagram, like easily advertised. The people were so nice to talk to. I had like a phone call, someone who I could text if I had questions. I had video calls, and like they extended the deadline for like the scholarship, and that was like so necessary for me. And I think that everybody there is like very like understanding that we're students and that like time is like something that we struggle with, and able to work with us to make the trip work for us.
Definitely. Thank you, Marissa. And one more question that I kind of wanted, it was mentioned around the chat a little bit, was how did, and this could be different for all of you guys, but how did what you studied and what you majored in relate to the program you chose? Or how did it not relate? Maybe that would be interesting as well.
I would say mine didn't necessarily correlate whatsoever. I did just graduate though, so I wasn't necessarily looking for something. I was looking for more of an internship opportunity, but I decided against that after doing my research on the gap semester options. I wouldn't say that it needs to align with what you're looking to do. The experience that you're going to get far outweighs whatever major you're gonna go for. But for me, it didn't necessarily have anything to do with why I chose what I was doing. It was just a good opportunity, and I took it when it was in front of me.
I think mine actually aligned with my like career goals and major a lot more than I was expecting it to. So I'm like a communications and art major. And when we went on the trip, I got like super into photography, which is something I've like never really tried before. And I got really into that throughout the trip. And it's kind of helped me build my like artistic portfolio, which has been super cool. And then my internship was, I was working for a medical VR company, and it was a startup company. So I kind of helped them create their website. I made a bunch of their like strategy decks for them, and I helped them find like investors and clients. So that was like super cool, and it actually was like super beneficial for me, which I wasn't exactly expecting. And it helped me get like a lot of experience in what I wanted to do. So that was really cool.
So for me, I'm a philosophy major. There wasn't a lot that it could really do for my particular major, but it was interesting because, I went to Rome to study Italian. And so I remember walking into a bookshop and picking up Dante's Inferno. And I could pick out bits and pieces that I could understand in its original language, which was something that was really cool.
Yeah, Dante's Inferno is no easy read.
So I'm a religion and neuroscience double major, so my trip did not relate to it at all. However, part of like, I think, or at least like religion, the religion department is like trying to understand other cultures and like the religious frameworks that kind of surround like those cultures and like those structures that are put in place there. And so I think that travel in general is just like a really great way of broadening your mind and like helping you to see like the world from other perspectives other than our own. And I think that that lesson is applicable to any major, and like in any person's life in whatever field they go into.
Fellow neuroscience major here, so I like those thoughts. And we'll kind of we're nearing kind of the end of this. So what I want to hear from all of you guys is just give me like one or two of your program highlights, something that stuck with you, something that you did, something that you ate, somewhere you went, just something that really stuck out to you.
Funny story. Give us the good stuff, guys.
I would say for Costa Rica, we did have a little hiccup in our traveling, and it wasn't the worst thing. I got stuck in an airport with people that ended up being my best friends, and I think that brought us closer together. We now look back at it and laugh the entire time. And then I got a tattoo I was dreaming of while I was in Rome. So that's my highlight.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
My highlight, well, this isn't like my ultimate highlight, but the only one I can think of right now is this sandwich that we had outside at the Louvre. I was like, I don't even know what was in it to this day, and I'm such a picky eater, but it was like the best thing I've ever eaten in my entire life. Like, that's not me being dramatic either.
God touched that sandwich.
I
like,
think about that
personally.
sandwich every day. Yes, that was definitely my highlight. If anyone ever goes to the Louvre, it's like I don't know if it's there every day, but it was like this little like random sandwich cart like outside the Louvre. That was like my highlight of my life. Honestly, it was so good.
That's awesome.
My highlight would be the last day that we were in Rome, the last night. My group and I all went to dinner, and we had kind of an emotional goodbye, but we didn't really want the night to end, so we ended up going to the Trevi Fountain for a bit. And we stayed and we talked and we talked and we talked, and eventually it was 1 a.m. and we kind of realized we all had to part ways, and so we all gave a big group hug, and a few of us got on trams, a few of us walked to buses. And yeah, saying goodbye to those people is something that I'll never forget.
So my memories from Rancho Margot, which was this like commune. Yeah, Frankie just made a face. So I was like, yeah, and Missy. So they recognize it. Yeah, honestly, one of the most amazing places I've ever been. So beautiful, like completely self-sustaining. But it's like in the middle of a forest, and there is like this one pier that is overlooks like one of their lakes. And I remember one of the nights after like I don't know, it was pretty late, but like we had been like in one of the main areas playing cards. And then like all of a sudden we were like, oh, we should go like look at the stars on the pier. And we were there until sunrise, just looking at the stars. And it was unbelievable. I've never seen so many stars in my whole life. We saw like 12 shooting stars in one night, which I think is a record for the most amount of shooting stars I've ever seen. It was, I mean, it was just magical. And like we didn't know each other super well at that point. So like it was just like there'd be like 10-minute periods of us talking about like our deepest darkest memories of childhood and like why like we are who we are today, and then like 30 minutes of silence and us just like being like, oh, a shooting star, like, oh, I see another one. And then like we'd play like a little bit of music, and then like we just go back to talking. And like basically the sun rose and we were like, oh, we should probably get a little bit of sleep because we have to do like manual labor the next day. But it was totally worth it. And like I mean, like it was just so beautiful. And like you never like you can't bond with people like that. Like that setting just is such a good catalyst for knowing someone like no other people.
I definitely agree, Marissa. I think it's funny, nights like those, you probably can recite the hour breakdown, like what you did every minute. So 'cause I know I have those memories as well. And I think last closing thoughts I want you guys to kind of tell our audience is, are there any like tips about that you have for these college students who are thinking about taking a gap program during their college journey? Just kind of some final words that you would like to impart on them.
I would say don't be afraid. I know it sounds scary, and I know it's like my biggest fear was like being behind all of my friends. And like this spring, all of my friends are going to graduate and I'm going to be here for another year. But like in the grand scheme of things, I would so much rather have the experiences that I have than like graduate on time with my friends. Because like there's no rush to graduate on time. So my advice would be like, if you're thinking about it, like take the leap. You're never going to regret it ever. You're going to regret not doing it.
I would agree with Missy. Your anxieties are not as big as you think, and your faith is greater than your fear. There's a lot more to miss out on not taking an opportunity like this, and now being in grad school and knowing what my future looks like. If I didn't do this when I did it, I don't think I ever could ever afford it again. I have student debt. Like it's an opportunity that I will forever be grateful for. And don't ever let fear get in your way. I was very anxious about this, aside from the age thing, just doing something independently, and it completely changed who I am as a person.
Something that really deterred me when I was thinking about doing a program with EF was being alone in it, and like alone in my worries and alone in my anxieties, and thinking that everyone else was super confident, and wasn't the case at all. You're not alone in wanting to travel. You're not alone in when you travel. Like you never feel isolated with EF, and I'm very appreciative of that.
I think everybody said it pretty clearly. I mean, really just go out and do it. Like, it's a life-changing experience, and you're gonna have amazing stories to tell everybody when you come back too. So
Amazing. Donna, thank you for jumping in and helping direct us. Thank the four of you, Frankie, Marissa, Missy, Aiden. Like, you guys are just giving, I think John probably got it too, a little bit of goosebumps on some of your feedback there of just taking the leap. But I think the reality is, you know, all of us are here because when you step off the straight and narrow path, it opens you up into possibilities that you never knew existed. And I think that all of us feel that. I know for me, you know, years down the road for my career path, but I know that my gap semester was a catalyst to say, hey, doing something with people is really cool, and helping other people realize that there's another way to live is meaningful. And being able to hear your stories, like, this is why I love to be able to work for this program and be able to give people these opportunities. And, you know, just thank you all so much for sharing your story. I know there's a lot of people that benefit from being able to hear this. I know sometimes from these sessions, we also have students that reach out and say, hey, actually, can I send Aiden a message or send Misty a message? We'll keep you guys in the loop if we get some of those messages to us, and make sure that we can connect to any prospective student. And I think in closing, I just want to let everybody know that if tonight really resonated with them, easiest thing to do would just be to connect with our team. It doesn't mean that you're signing up. It doesn't mean that you have to join us. It's just the next step to help you learn more about what program might be a good fit, to be able to talk through some of the things that everyone shared tonight around goals and motivations and anxieties as well, and help you get a lot more information, and to be able to figure out, you know, what programs still have space and what might be a good fit for you. So, John, is there anything else that I'm missing there?
Something I want to personally thank these great alumni. Thank you guys all for sharing your stories. Like you said, Kyle, it was kind of bringing me back and reliving my days as a fellow gapper. So I appreciate you guys giving me a chance to kind of to relive that. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you all so much. All right, we're going to wrap up this evening. I know everyone's got a lot of stuff that they got to go take care of. So thank you all for donating your time. We'll be in touch. Thanks everybody for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you for your next travel experience with us soon. Everybody have an awesome night. Thank you guys so much.